Hi guys, welcome to a new tutorial by Nyjo. I'm Alessandro Cangelosi, the founder and instructor for this series of tutorials. We are working on part 4 for the orange juice, and today we are trying to go and simulate something like that. So you see we are trying to finalize the setup in 3ds Max. You see to have the final animation, and then we are going to cover how to set up the final look. You see that we have, for example, here the fluid, and then we are going to discover the bottle in a few because we are going to prepare the animation. So when the fluid is rising up in a few, we'll have the bottle that will appear in the rendering. You will see something in a few frames. So for example, if we go higher, obviously it's rendering. You see that we have a lot of fluids. If we move forward to 360, we are going in the area where the bottle is starting to be visible. And in this way, we'll have a really nice setup. You see that it's going to be visible. And let's say, for example, at frame 420, and then you have those big splash. So we're going to cover also the AOV, the final setup for the rendering, and then in the next part we are going to cover the compositing. So we'll be over with the entire animation, and we'll try to add also maybe a little bit of color grading. So that's what we are trying to achieve today. And if we like to see also the big splash, we have to go, for example, at frame 500. And at frame 500 we'll have some area of splash. So let's start taking care about the scene and preparing all the other stuff needed for this tutorial. So let's wait just to see the preview for the splash. Obviously there are some stuff that are done just in rendering, like the turbo smooth and the relax and stuff like that. So it takes a little bit of time to prepare the mesh for the rendering, but in a few seconds we'll have the final mesh setup. So that's what we are trying to achieve today. So let's start playing with the scene and finalize the part 4. So we try to be really fast to prepare everything. So for the moment I like to remove some stuff. So let's go in the layer explorer. And we set off the fluid, so we are working just on the bottle. In this way we can focus on the general setup for the scene, and then we can move forward to finalize everything. So let's go over the bottle. So when we go to render and we can use a lower resolution, we have something that's essentially simple. I like to add something to the bottle because actually we have just the glass, that's all. So we can try to do something. So that's the bottle, and we need a piece of the bottle. So let's try to clone this one as a copy, and let's say bottle layer over. So we know that this one is the piece we are going to work on later over the bottle. So let's go in the front, and we try essentially to select the area that is external to the model. So for example, we can pick this area, do something like that, and we can essentially cut the other parts and work on this one. Or maybe if you like, we can avoid to do something like that, because I was thinking to remove the bottle over the top over there, and we can work on the other. Another idea is that we can work completely over the bubble here, and that's another idea. So the idea is that we can work essentially over the material. So let's move on the slate because we have more space, and it is better to work in this way. Let's go to play here, and let's say that we see that this one is dockable, so we can maybe, let's find a better position, maybe there. Okay. So we need a material, so let's go to remove this one. Maybe we go to adjust this place, and then we can pick the material for the glass, and then we go to use maybe a V-Ray blend material. Okay, so this one is the complete glass bottle. The base material is this one, and we can close. So this one is the material we have there, and then for the coat we go for a standard material. Text chart. So we know that this one is the piece we have over, and over this one we go to have a bitmap. We can do everything manually here. We say to use a V-Ray bitmap, and then we go over the network. That's the first access today, so I have to set the user and the password. And February, and we go here, and texture, and I prepared something really simple to be used over. Okay. So let's say that actually this one is the only material we are able to see. If we like, we can, for example, have the V-Ray viewport here. By the way, obviously we have to assign this material, so assign material to selection. So now we are using the right one. Okay. We have no reflectivity, and that's all. So we have essentially to change the mapping here. We have no tiling, and we say that over the vertical axis, maybe it is something like 3. Let's go for 0.1 for blur, so we have a really low amount of blurring. And then we go to move this one, for example, here. And the base of the material is completely black. And then essentially we can rotate the bottle, so it's essentially in front of us. Okay. And then if we like, we can have also a little bit of tiling, so maybe the scaling is better, you know, so something like that. Okay, now the problem is that you see we have a really high visibility here about the brightness. So let's try to go in real time here. So you see that's the color we have right now, and we can maybe tweak this map, essentially going down, you know, with the color. So we can, for example, let's try to have something that is darker at the beginning. Okay, that's the lighting that we have at the moment. So maybe we need to have, let's go in the dome and say that this one is not visible in the specularity and the reflection. So we are going to have something that is some just to be visible. Let's see if it would be nice to have something that is similar to the orange color. Okay, and then we can go lower, obviously, with the coloring, just to have something. Okay, something like that. I think we have to tweak again the tiling here because it is not so nice. Or maybe we can go for 2 here and 4 here. Okay, so we see everything, and maybe to have less stretching, we can just try to tweak a little bit the material. So now essentially we have it. If we like, we can have a little bit of specularity, but you see that maybe we have to go lower with the glossiness, and then we have to decide to have this one just over the bottle. So what we can do is essentially just playing with a mask, and the mask can be essentially something like a gradient, and he will have the same tiling about this one. So we can make a test. So if you like, you can essentially close this one and then say that the first plan is a general, and we go for having a gradient ramp, and the idea is that we go for a solid one. So we go to rotate this one, so it's over this axis, and this one is completely white, so in this way you see we are going to decide how much is visible. So we see the other material there, but just to make a test, we can essentially go in there, and maybe we can just make a switch. So we go to remove this one material, and we go for a very material, standard material, that's not important, and we go for something that is visible, So then over the gradient, we can do something like that. That's a really simple approach to do it. Obviously, you can do something more complex if needed. And then we need to have something also there. So we can say that this one is black and this one is removed. Okay, that's an idea. Obviously, that's not completely perfect, but it can work. So if I switch again there, you see that essentially we have this kind of look, and I think that's essentially something that can work. There are many ways to do something like that, so you can find the best one for you, but this one is a really simple and fast way to have it. So I think we can go for something like that. And then back here, I like maybe to go just a little bit down, maybe to something like that. And then let's go to add the fluid, because I like to see when we have also the fluid inside how it looks. And I think that's not bad. Let's remove the splash. And just to double check here about the glossiness of the refraction, let's go higher so it's more visible. And I think we have also the motion blur, so let's remove for a moment this one and focus over this area. Yeah, you see we have still a lot of motion blur, so let's go to pick this one and V-ray properties, and then we can tweak a little bit the motion blur. Sorry, I have to click again. So we go to tweak this one, the motion blur duration, and let's say maybe 10 times lower. Okay, and then re-update, and it works better. Now we have just to check when we are at the beginning if it works nicely. Yeah, that's not bad. Okay, we can have back the bubble. And the bubble, we have to double check if this one is visible every time. Yeah, okay. So I like to animate the visibility. So let's say that here the bubble is completely not visible. So let's say auto, object properties, visibility is set to 0. Then we move forward. Let's say that we have still just the fluid, and maybe here, then we can move the key, obviously. We say 0, and then maybe here we have the bubble, but then we can tweak it. So let's say 1. Okay. So what happened is essentially we have just, let's go to check. I think we lost the key. Yep. So we can copy, select this one that was 0, shift key, and then move it. So in this way we should have, you see, just the fluid, still just the fluid is rising up. And then when we are here, we should start to see the bubble that is appearing. Maybe we can move everything forward. So we say maybe also more. Okay, so it's not visible. We have just a fluid, and then we start to see the bubble that is appearing. So we have the fluid that is still going up. Okay, let's set off the animation, and then I like to have, let's call this one with a right mouse button, rename, let's say bubble, and then we go right click, create a new view, let's call it ground, and in ground I'm going to pick the material for the ground. And maybe I like just to have more reflectivity. So it's highly reflective, you know. maybe we can try also a little bit more. Okay, and about the glass, we can go back here and say that we like to have, again, a little bit more glossiness. Okay, so let's move forward and see what happens when we have also the big splash coming. Let's update because there was no mesh before. Okay, obviously we have to stop everything because we need to take care about it later. By the way, it seems nice, you know. Maybe we can just try to do something, and it's essentially having an environment. So I'd like just to make a test. So let's save this one as number 2. And let's call it part 4. So we know that this one is the scene we are using in part 4 about the tutorial. Then the idea is to have an environment. And about the environment, let's try to have something like a cylinder, or maybe just, yeah, we can try with a cylinder. Okay, so this one is really big, and in this way we are essentially in an empty space, and over the z-axis we go down or we go up. We have to decide how much is high. So let's go really high, and we get to have the normal. So normal, okay, now we see inside, and then this mesh is not able to object properties, it's not able to receive shadows and cast shadows, and I like to see if this one is useful to have a better scene. So we get to have a color, maybe an orange color over this one. So let's wait for the update. Okay, let's wait. Okay, so let's set you off for a moment. Okay, let's remove the splash. And about this one, let's say that we have an edit poly, and we go to remove the ground. And if we go in a perspective, we can essentially remove also this one. So we have just the face all over around. So camera name, and let's go for a turbo smooth to have something that is curvy. Okay, nice. So now it should work. By the way, let's remove essentially the fluids and say that I like to see the preview again. Okay, so now it's visible to the reflectivity. Let's say that it's visible just to the camera, but in this way we have no. Okay, let's go to have reflection and refraction, and about the V-ray properties. Let's say that it's not visible in reflection and render gain. Okay, so you see it's not reflective but just visible in the refraction over the bubble. And let's go to create a new material and let's call it back. We can obviously use also the environment. By the way, that's just a test to make something, to show you also how you can use sorry, we were inside here. So material, let's go for V-ray material, and that's just a test for the moment. We go to have no naming, but we go to have gradient ramp. Okay, and I think we go for a radial one, and we say that this one is something that is something like that. We get to remove for a moment this one, and this one would be a really orange color. Okay, what about the mapping? Let's see if we go for the screen. Now it's going to use essentially the screen color, but I think I like to have something like that here. And maybe something like that there. But we try to have a brighter color for a bigger space. Sorry. And this one will be brighter. So you see it's brighter here and then it's expanding. What about the tiling? We try to have less tiling over the y-axis. Okay, and the idea is that maybe this one is visible later, but I like to see again if this one is visible in the reflection, what's going on. And let's have everything so we know in a better way which is the final look about the scene. So I like to be sure that it's essentially not so bad, because we are starting to have a lot of stuff inside our scene, So here the fluid is really visible. Maybe I prefer the other one, so we can remove it. It was just a test, so let's go to remove it. It's not useful, so this look is better than the other. Okay, so we have essentially everything. So I like to play with the rendering setup. So we are going to render everything here with the motion blur, and then we need for sure, let's go to have something. So for example, the alpha, we don't need the crypto because we have just an object, so that's not a problem. Let's go for the diffuse. We can need the global lighting, the global illumination. We can have the light select, but we are going to tweak it in a few, because with the light select you can create your own lighting setup, tweaking the stuff in compositing, and that's really nice. So let's move forward with the other stuff. So let's say that I will go to use something about maybe reflection, refraction. And then I think we are going to use, it's possible that we need the shadows, specularity, scattering. We are not going to use the velocity because the motion blur is done essentially in 3D. So we can use these layers, and then we need the light select. So to prepare the light select, you can use the first one and say that this one is the, let's say, LS DOM, and we go to use the DOM. Then we need a new one, light select again. This one is LS main, and it's going to use the main lighting. And then we go to add two more light select. This one is LS fill 01, and we go to pick the first one, and then another one light select LS fill 02, and we get to pick the second one. So if we make a test render, we can have maybe also, if needed, a mask, but I think we can go in this way because it's not so complex stuff. So let's wait to see a preview and see the layers. So we have the alpha, maybe we can need an RGB to control the splitting between the ground and the other stuff. So this one is the alpha, the diffuse, the global illumination, reflection, refraction, shadows, specularity. In the scattering we have nothing because we are in this kind of situation about the setup, so we have to decide how we can move with the stuff. So maybe the comp can be done just tweaking some stuff. So I will try not to rebuild the beauty. So we are going to use the beauty rendered by V-Ray, and then we are going to tweak just maybe something. So the idea is essentially to work on a single frame, and then we are going to play with everything else, checking the animation. And you have the animation at the beginning, you saw the animation at the beginning of the video, so don't worry about it. Let's say that we are going to use frame number 500. We go for HD, and the quality, let's go for a bucket. We go higher with a minimum shading rate. Let's try with 16. And let's go lower with this one. We can have also a little bit more noise for the moment, it's not a problem. And we go to render separate channel. And in this case, I'm going to save directly in the free contents, social 2025, February, Orange Juice, and let's call renders. And let's say preview for comp. So we're going to prepare a slab comp with it. So orange, PVC, render, EXR, and that's okay. And save, and we go to render, and then we play inside Fusion to have the final preview. If needed, you can go also inside maybe DaVinci to have a little bit of grading, but it's not needed. I think we can just tweak something about the color inside Fusion. So let's wait for it. So before we go to launch final rendering, I'd like to show you something related to the scattering we have here. You know, here it's working perfectly, but here we have a really bright color, and it's related to, we can have a really simple solution, and that's essentially, we had 3 here, but you can go lower to, for example, 0.5, and we should have a lower value. Let's check, and then we go to check also this area, and we can essentially solve in this way. It's the simplest way to do it, so don't worry about it. Obviously, we can find any other solution, but this one is perfectly matching to what we try to have. You see that we have some bright spot, but I think it's going better than before. We can see the same also there to see if we have a lower value of white coloring. And then we go to double check, for example, there if everything is working nicely. So let's wait for a moment. Yeah, you see we have some bright spot, but they are lower. And let's go to check also there if everything is okay about the color and the other stuff. And then we go to render again. Then the last thing is to pick everything inside Fusion, and I think we are going to use the beauty, and maybe we are going to use some layers to tweak a little bit everything, but we have to double check because maybe everything works nicely in this way. Okay, so that's okay. Let's go back in the render here and say to save, and Control S to save the scene. And then we can go to render the final version of the scene, and we can try also to have maybe just a little bit higher value for the noise because it's essentially clean enough to make a test render. And save. Okay, render. So you see the render is near to be ready. It's not bad, it is nice quality, but we have to tweak the position of the fluid because you see that it's going inside the bottle, so it needs to be tweaked. On the other side, everything is okay, so we have maybe just to make these tweaks, and then we can essentially be ready to move to part 5. And in part 5, we are going to work on the compositing and final grading. So I like just to make these tweaks together because it's essentially important to have this part that is working in a nice way. So let's go in a perspective, and you see that it's visible that the fluid mesh is going inside. Yep. So maybe it's not inside, maybe it's moving near. So we have to see if it is going in this way. And to be sure, we can essentially try to move this mesh let's go directly here. Okay, no, it was not going inside, so you see it's touching the bottle, so that's okay. Okay, it's not a problem. I like just to double check if we can have the relax and the turbo smooth in rendering. So just to have a better fluid mesh. This one is essentially just in render, so it's 1 in render and 0 in viewport. And the relax can be used just in render, so it's off in viewport and it's visible just in render. Just some light, some small addition. I like to double check here. We have the alpha, diffuse, global. I think we have everything. I like just to double check if we can need something for the final compositing, but I think that's okay. Yeah, we can go in this way, that's not a problem. Save, and we are ready to move forward with the rendering, and then we play with the compositing. So see you soon for the next part. Bye.